Hi everybody, and welcome to my second video on working with OpenWhisk. In the last video I showed working with the CLI to make simple actions with JavaScript. In this one we're going to work with asynchronous actions. So when would you have an asynchronous action? Well, anytime you're working with some other service that's asynchronous, for example doing NoSQL stuff with Cloudant or talking to another remote URL, you're going to have asynchronous code and your action has to be built to handle that. Luckily, OpenWhisk makes that pretty darn simple. Let's look at an example. So to make something asynchronous, all I need to do is return a promise in my action. And you can see I have the basic shell of such an action there. And literally that's it. So when OpenWhisk runs this particular action, once I actually add some logic to it, it will recognize that it's asynchronous and it will process the action such that when it's done it has a result and you are good to go. So for my example, I'm going to kind of copy/modify one of the examples in the docs. And by the way, I will include a link to the docs in this video comment because they're pretty darn good. And the API I'm going to use is the Star Wars API. This is a really simple, free to use API that returns data about Star Wars. One of the APIs they include is the ability to get a list of spaceships used in the movies. So I'm going to modify my action, and I've already written the code. I'm just going to copy and paste and then explain what's going on. Okay, so the very first line, I am requesting the request npm module. Now you can't use any random npm module in OpenWhisk. There is a list of modules that you are allowed to use, and I'll link to that list in the video comments. But the list is actually quite intensive, and it covers a great set of things you may use. So most likely what you want to use is going to be covered and you're good to go. So once I have the request module, I begin by creating a simple variable to point to the API. And you can see there it is, API/starships. And then I could call request.get, request that particular URL, and my callback gets three arguments: error, response, and body. If it's an error, I'm going to reject my promise and just send back the error that the API gave me. And if it's good, I'm going to take the JSON response, parse it, and then resolve it. And you can see that on line 14. Now to be clear, and what's kind of really cool about this is that I could modify that response. So if I want to use some other API and I think they return too much data, I can take stuff out. Or if they don't return stuff that I need, I can actually add stuff to it. So I can modify that API to fit my needs. But that's all we have for now. I'm going to save it and let's go to the command line and create a new action. We'll call it action2 and point to action2.js. And boom. And we will invoke that action. And I will do blocking so we can wait for the response. And it ran. As you can see, I have an array of spaceships. So that's a rather simple example, but it does show you how to build asynchronous actions. In the next video, I'm going to show you how to work with errors. So when you screw up, which you will do, because I know I do, I'll show you how to get those errors and then use that to help fix your action code.